water began coming through the window like the window was open.
Marks 70 years since the most devastating weather event in Waco history. Good morning, I'm Sade Luray. In 1953, more than 100 people would be killed after a tornado leveled the downtown area. 25 News reporter Nakia Simon and meteorologist Josh Johns have a look at the damage and how the city is remembering those victims. But we begin our coverage this morning with Joey Horta, who has stories from survivors. Joey?
Sade, good morning. And if you've ever been to downtown Waco here to see the Dr. Pepper Museum in person, you've seen the destruction. Just take a look at the wall here. Different colors of brick. The lighter brick up top representing the new brick that was rebuilt here when that tornado knocked the rest of that wall down. But just 2 blocks away from here is the Alico building. I'm staring right at it. It was unfazed by the tornado largely. And one of the survivors who was up in that building watching the whole thing go by tells us what it was like to see the destruction with his own eyes. May 11th, 1953. 1,000 buildings wiped out. More than 100 lives cut short by a monster F5 tornado.
I'd never seen anything like it.
Colin Smith, one of the lucky ones.
I was in the law library.
The former lawyer telling 25 News back in 2018 about witnessing the unbelievable power of Mother Nature from the iconic Alico building.
I went over to my office and there was debris coming through the sky, the air, everywhere. It was not just a little bit of trash. It was all kinds of things, and it was moving horizontal, not falling.
Forever changing the landscape of downtown in a matter of minutes.
Look outside and everything you could see was ruined, demolished.
Rescuers would spend days sifting through the debris while others fought to recover. Larry Halsey was in the 3rd grade and learned a powerful lesson.
From that devastation, from that loss, we were able to overcome that and bring ourselves back together as a team, as a family, as a town.
Days later, Smith would return to the Alico building, one of the few still standing today.
I was the first one to go into our office, and it was exactly like it had been when we left. The typewriters, the electric typewriters, were running. You could hear them running, and they had the middle of documents that the secretaries had been typing on. They were in the typewriter. The motor was going. It just stopped, like the world stopped right then.
7 decades later, still hard to believe. Now, Colin Smith passed away last year. So many of the victims will be remembered here today, 70 years later at his ceremony. And right now, 25 News reporter Nakia Simon is live just across downtown with the details on that. Nakia.
Good morning. Some of the worst devastation happened at this site. The disaster was so massive that many survivors had to wait up to 14 hours to be rescued. State and local law enforcement hit the grounds, but was simply unprepared for what the city had faced. Even Baylor University students served as first responders.
It's a really big piece of Waco's history, right? Pieces that we can still see the impact of today. And so we're going to always make sure that we remember this day and honor it like it should be.
In just a couple of hours, the city of Waco will hold a remembrance ceremony for our community. Members of the Waco City Council, including the Waco Fire and Police Department's honor guards. Mayor Dylan Meek will deliver remarks. The event will begin at 10 a.m., located right here at the memorial site on 4th Street and Austin Avenue. Flowers will be available for any community residents who want to stop by and lay them here on the site. And it will be a day of remembrance across McLennan County. Reporting in Waco, Nakia Simon, 25 News. Back.
Nakia, thank you for that. And it's just hard to imagine what really happened down here all those decades ago, but it's a reality for so many families out there. We've learned so much about the tornado since it struck, and Josh Johns is standing by with more on what we know about the path of this storm.
Yeah, Yeah, and Joey, it took probably about the worst path a tornado could take, forming down below Hewitt and then moving into the city of Waco. Of course, back in the 50s, a lot of this didn't exist. Most of the city was north of what is now Valley Mills Drive, but took it straight through downtown before it eventually dissipated as it got north of Belmead and into Axtell. And that was hitting the most urban part of Waco back then. Now the damage would be even more incredible if that were to happen again. F5 tornado, the strongest on the Fujita scale, 23-mile path, and unfortunately causing 114 deaths. Now, tornadoes are commonplace across the Lone Star State, but the type that hit Waco, very rare. Those F5 tornadoes, we've only had 6 of them across the Lone Star State, and 3 of them have occurred in Central Texas, a sign that despite the fact we aren't in the center of Tornado Alley, we can still get those big impacts. Good news, none of that out there today. I am tracking rain chances, though, and I'll have a look at that coming up.
All righty, thank you, Josh. Well, in continuing coverage this morning, a teen is now charged with murder in the death of another boy. 17-year-old Terquan Johnson's body was found last week on J.J. Fluellen Road in Waco. Police arresting another 17-year-old in connection with that crime. He's being held at the Freestone County Jail. And no word yet on what caused a 911 system outage in McLennan County. Police had to route 911 calls through the non-emergency line because of a glitch. Thankfully, service was restored around 3 p.m. Wednesday. Now, we reached out to the County 911 Emergency Assistance District for more details, but we have not heard back yet. And weather is being blamed for a raw sewage spill in Temple. The city says more than 100,000 gallons spilled into Bird Creek after heavy rains impacted a sewer near 61st Street and Northwood Road. And a trip to a neighborhood park turning into a frightening experience for a local nanny and the toddler she was caring for. 25 News reporter Jarrell Baker tells us what they saw.
Usually when you're out at a local park, it's normal to see a four-legged furry animal. Coyote is a different story. Just ask local nanny Angela Kelly.
I know that there's a lot of development, so I know there's a lot of different animals, but for it to come after us was kind of like unexpected, but I just kind of had a weird feeling when I saw him.
Kelly says she and her toddler were out at Western Hills Park in Temple playing Tuesday morning when Kelly noticed a coyote walking out of the wooded area.
I was holding the toddler and he kept like stalking us, and like I had a feeling he was just going to come after us.
Suddenly, the coyote started to run towards them. That's when Kelly and the toddler started running in the other direction.
Luckily, our car was like literally right there. Otherwise, I don't know that we could have outran a coyote.
Kelly called Temple Animal Services. City officials say when they arrived on scene, the animal was gone and out of sight. They say they usually get 20 calls of animal sightings per year throughout the city.
We are now out of the breeding season, and so a lot of the mothers are out looking for food for their babies. So you might see, a stray coyote walking around.
City officials say that if you see a coyote, wave your hands and make noise.
They don't want to interact with people, about 99% of the time. So if you kind of just give them a jump scare, they're going to run.
They also warn, do not turn and run, do not approach the animal, and don't feed the animal. In Temple, Jarrell Baker, 25 News.
Well, with Fort Cavazos redesignation, the airfield on Post is also getting a new name. The Hood Army Heliport is now the Yoakum Dufresne Army Heliport. It's named after 2 soldiers who died during a patrol in Iraq back in 2007. Now, the 1st Cavalry District getting a new Command Sergeant Major. Laveris Jackson Sr. is coming from Fort Benning. A welcome ceremony for Jackson is happening at 9 tomorrow morning. And new developments up next in that deadly mass shooting at a mall in North Texas. Lawmakers demanding accountability as investigators look into the gunman's online extremism. And a former Fort Hood soldier learns his fate for a deadly shooting in Austin.
And I'm tracking what's a quiet morning out there right now, but rain chances coming back for your Mother's Day weekend. We'll get that forecast coming up.
Alrighty, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Listen, Josh, we had a lot of rain yesterday. I felt like it seemed like it rained all day long. which, you know, made me very, very sleepy. But are we looking for a little bit of sunshine today or more rain?
Yeah, we'll get a little bit of sunshine out there today. Now, I can't rule out a shower, but today is going to be much drier than what we had yesterday with the constant, what seemed like constant at times, rain across central Texas. You're looking outside the Clark Roofing Cam and Clean. There's really not much going on this morning. Temperatures in the mid-60s. You may find some patchy fog out there in your morning commute, but won't cause too many issues. We'll get into the mid to upper 80s later on this afternoon. That's when we could have a little bit of a spot shower. Out there right now, really not much on the live radar network. We are watching a couple showers out here towards West Texas. I can't rule out that some of that works into, say, Mills or San Saba County, but most of the activity will stay out to the west. And that's where the thunderstorm chances will be today along the dry line, well to our west. So things should be pretty quiet. We are watching a little area of moisture, though, in the northern Pacific Ocean. That's going to be swinging over Mexico. And as that moisture reaches us, we will up those rain chances again this weekend. So while we're seeing a lull right now, don't expect it to last through the weekend. Today, the thunderstorms are mainly confined to the north of Dallas-Fort Worth. That's where they could have tornadoes up towards Oklahoma City. Won't have to worry about that here. The south winds pick up tomorrow. That'll feed in more moisture. And then look what happens by late in the day on Friday. We'll be watching thunderstorms developing into our west. Some of those likely coming in late in the evening and into your Saturday morning. And that's where you could have multiple rounds of rain heading through the morning into the day on Saturday. And we'll even keep that rain around for Sunday as well. Could see some pretty hefty rains, especially across the hill country. That's where the potential rainfall over the next 7 days could reach 5 to 6 inches. And that does include some of our western counties, which is where the drought is at its strongest right now. So this will be really good to get a dent in the drought from that rainfall. We'll keep the storm chances in place through the weekend. Again, small chances today, better chances tomorrow, especially in the evening. And then Saturday and Sunday look to be our wettest days. Behind that, though, it looks like we dry out a bit. We'll keep little isolated rain chances around. But as far as widespread rain, I don't see that next week. Temperatures hovering near 80.
All righty. Thank you, Josh. Well, developing news this morning, the investigation continues after that deadly mass shooting at an outlet mall in Allen. But now state lawmakers want to know why the gunman's online extremism wasn't noticed by law enforcement. Now, following the El Paso shooting, Governor Greg Abbott formed a domestic terrorism task force. Part of its mission was to track threats of extremism online, but it's only met twice since it was formed.
I want to know what DPS has been doing, what threads they've been following on Twitter or Facebook or any kind of social media from people like this man in Allen.
In a statement, Governor Greg Abbott's office says the governor has issued 8 executive orders and 5 directives to DPS since the El Paso shooting. They say more than 100 special agents have been assigned to anti-gang centers, which are looking into neo-Nazi and white nationalist groups. And no response so far from Governor Greg Abbott following the sentencing of a former Fort Hood soldier convicted of murder. A judge sentencing Perry to 25 years in prison for the murder of Garrett Foster. Now, Foster was demonstrating during a Black Lives Matter protest in Austin. The governor has previously said if a pardon request is sent to him, he will approve it. The State Board of Pardons and Paroles is reviewing that case. And we're just hours away from Title 42 expiring. Communities now bracing for an influx of migrants, the latest from the southern border. It's now 6:16 and you're watching Good Morning Texas. It's now 6:20 and it's time for today's top stories. The Biden administration bracing for a surge at the southern border this morning as Title 42 comes to an end. Officials announcing new rules to prepare. And starting today, migrants will be denied asylum if they show up at the border without applying online first. Now, families will also face curfews and monitoring. And former President Donald Trump speaking at a CNN town hall. He says if reelected, he would pardon many January 6th rioters. He also dodged questions about abortion restrictions and declined to say whether he would continue America's support of Ukraine. And the COVID-19 public health emergency expires today. The order was enacted back in 2020 and let the government provide free COVID-19 testing and treatment. Now people with private insurance might have to pay for those things. The government will also change how it tracks and monitors COVID hospitalizations and deaths. All right, well, let's get a check on our weather. Josh, it's not pouring out there like it was yesterday. How's it looking out there?
Yeah, not raining this morning like it was yesterday morning, as you mentioned. We do have some clouds, though. We also have a little bit of patchy fog at times. The Clark Roofing Cam giving you that view from South Waco. Live radar network quiet for the most part. We are watching thunderstorms off to the northwest, but I think those stay away from us. Expect temperatures to get into the mid-80s this afternoon. With the recent rainfall, it's going to feel quite muggy. Could feel like it's in the mid-90s later on this afternoon. I am tracking more rain chances for the weekend, though, including the potential for a soggy Mother's Day. We'll get to that forecast coming up.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Josh. Well, it's a condition that can cause serious vision problems. For one local athlete, well, she isn't letting it stop her. How she's staying positive and overcoming the odds. Coming up. Some positive news we want to share with you this morning. A star athlete defying the odds despite her disability. It's a story that's positively Central Texas. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll head to Dawson to meet that athlete who is excelling, even though doctors told her her vision would keep her from playing.
I'm not going to let this eyesight affect me. Like, this is my dream. It's been my dream since I was little.
Callie Marbury is staying focused and overcoming an irreversible form of amblyopia. Well, Mother's Day is coming up and the city of Waco is getting ready to celebrate. The city is hosting a free Mother's Day brunch on Saturday. That's this Saturday. It's happening from 11 to 12:30 at the Bledsoe Miller Community Center. Now, space is very limited, so if you want to treat mama, you'll want to call ahead to reserve your seat. All right, let me know what you think about this. Trending this morning, if you couldn't tell by the long drive-through lines, a new study says Chick-fil-A is the most popular fast food joint in the great state of Texas. All right, so this study from Price Listo ranked the most searched fast food places and the most popular by state. And they found Chick-fil-A was Texas' favorite, with McDonald's, listen to this, in the runner-up spot. I told you all about that coffee. Now, Chick-fil-A is the third most searched for fast food restaurant online. McDonald's took home the top spot for most popular fast food restaurant nationwide, though. Listen, the other day I was thinking, I was like, McDonald's, is it ever going to go out of business? Probably not.
No.
It's just, it's the nation's, it's America's fast food place. You know, we have America's team, we got America's fast food place. But, by the way, KFC is giving out free chicken nuggets to moms out there too. And Josh, a lot of moms are planning their Mother's Day. This would also be a wonderful gift for them.
Sure
I'm just saying, I'd rather take this than KFC nuggets.
You get to reuse it. You can't reuse those nuggets. So.
Exactly. Well, it's time to find out who is winning this Good Morning Texas coffee mug.
Sure is. And today's winner, Joanne Potter. Congrats, Joanne. We'll let you know you can pick up one of these Good Morning Texas mugs.
Hey, and remember, if you want to enter to win, you can always log on to our website, kxxv.com/contest. Click that big mug. You can't miss it. And enter your email address. And remember, we are giving away a mug every day from 5:30 to 6:30. So yeah, join us to see who the winner is. And Josh, this weather, no shade, not award-winning weather, I would say, this week so far.
No, we had a lot of rain. I mean, people will need the rain. We know that, but it's not fun to be out in. Yeah. We'll be honest with it. But at least today, we don't have that on the way. We have a little bit of sunshine. It is going to be warm. It is going to be muggy. Playing on a bad hair day today. Lower 80s at 2 o'clock, mid 80s later on this afternoon. You factor in the humidity. It's going to make it feel like it's in the mid-90s outside. I think we'll stay dry today. Thunderstorms likely happening to our north, but by the time we get into Friday evening, that's when we'll watch for thunderstorms to build off to the west. These likely work in Friday evening and into the overnight hours Saturday, likely keeping the rain around. The system with it will continue to bring these rounds of rain as we go through Saturday and on into Mother's Day Sunday as well. So if you're making plans for mom, you probably don't want to have those plans outside. Go ahead and plan on inside plans for now as we get into Sunday. And by the way, if you're heading to the hill country, we're going to be dealing with the potential flooding there, as they are expecting 5 to 7 inches of rainfall here over the next 7 days. Part of that, including some of our western counties, it's going to be a big gradient from west to east across the area. Still, pretty good rain chances setting up Mother's Day weekend here in Central Texas. So a 20% chance of rain today, 40% chance Friday, 70% chance Saturday, and 60% chance Sunday. Looks like we'll try to taper off some of those rain chances next week, but daily chances continue through the weekend.
All righty, Josh, man. May is bringing a lot of rain.
Sure is.
All right, well, much more to come on Good Morning Texas. It's now 6:30. We'll be right back.
Water began coming through the window like the window was open.
Today marks 70 years since the most devastating weather event in Waco history. Good morning, I'm Sharday LeRae, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, in 1953, more than 100 people would be killed after a tornado leveled the downtown area. And 25 News reporter Nakia Simon and meteorologist Josh Johns have a look at the damage and how the city is remembering those victims. But we begin our team coverage this morning with Joey Horta, who has stories from those survivors. Joey?
Sharday, good morning to you. And now that the sun's beginning to come up, we're getting some light out here, and you can get a better idea of the destruction. If you've been to the Dr. Pepper Museum, you can see it just by looking at the brick walls here. Lighter colored bricks up top. You see how that goes down, kind of a bows down there. The darker bricks on the bottom are the original. The lighter stuff is what replaced the huge holes that were left in this building by that destructive tornado. Now, if you look just 2 blocks down the street here, the Alico building, where it's located, was unfazed remarkably. And this morning, hearing from one of the survivors who witnessed this whole thing unfold from the Alico building.
May 11th, 1953. 1,000 buildings wiped out. More than 100 lives cut short by a monster F5 tornado.
I'd never seen anything like it.
Cullen Smith, one of the lucky ones.
I was in the law library.
The former lawyer telling 25 News back in 2018 about witnessing the unbelievable power of Mother Nature from the iconic Alico building.
I went over to my office and there was debris coming through the sky, the air, everywhere. It was not just a little bit of trash, kinds of things, and it was moving horizontal, not falling.
Forever changing the landscape of downtown in a matter of minutes.
Look outside and everything you could see was ruined, demolished.
Rescuers would spend days sifting through the debris while others fought to recover. Larry Halsey was in the 3rd grade and learned a powerful lesson.
From that devastation, from that loss, we were able to overcome that and bring ourselves back together as a team, as a family, as a town.
Days later, Smith would return to the Alico building, one of the few still standing today.
I was the first one to go into our office, and it was exactly like it had been when we left. The typewriters, the electric typewriters, were running. You could hear them running, and they had the middle of documents that the secretaries had been typing on. They were in the typewriter. The motor was going. You just stopped. Like the world stopped right then.
7 decades later, still hard to believe.
Now, Cullen ended up passing away last year after a very long and full life into his 90s, serving as a lawyer here in Waco. His story's not unique. He saw all of this storm unfolding here, this monstrous tornado. And so many families are impacted by this. They lost their loved ones, their lives forever changed and cut short, so many of them. Today, there will be a ceremony to honor those victims, and Nakia Simon is live downtown with where that ceremony is taking place and more on that. Nakia?
Good morning, Joey. This was where some of the worst devastation occurred right here on this site. The disaster was so massive that many survivors had to wait up to 14 hours to be rescued. State and local law enforcement simply unprepared for the tornado that hit this city. Even Baylor University students served as first responders.
This is a really big piece of Waco's history, right? Pieces that we can still see the impact of today. And so we're going to always make sure that we remember this day and honor it like it should be.
In just a couple of hours, the city of Waco will hold a remembrance ceremony for our community. Members of the Waco City Council, including the Waco Fire and Police Department's honor guards, will be there. Mayor Dylan Meek will deliver remarks, and the event will begin at 10 a.m. It will be located right where I'm standing at the memorial site on 4th Street and Austin Avenue. For those who want to stop by and attend this memorial, flowers will be available for those who want to remember the lives that were lost to lay flowers on this site. Reported in Waco, Nakia Simon, 25 News. Back to you, Joey.
A touching tribute, no doubt, later on today. Nakia, thank you for that. We'll have more on that coming up here on 25 News midday at 11 a.m. But again, we've learned so much about this tornado. Experts, meteorologists, studying this for decades. And Josh Johns is here with what we've learned about this. Josh?
Yeah, Joey, the path of the tornado, it pretty much took the worst path it could have as it moved through Waco. Now, back in 1953, a lot of what you see on the map here didn't exist. Waco was mainly confined to what's north of now Valley Mills Drive there that cuts off of I-35. But that tornado started south of what is now Hewitt, moved up through downtown, cutting between the center of Waco Drive and Baylor, and then into Bellmead before it dissipated near Axtell. On the ground for 27 miles, this tornado was. And it's hard to imagine if that happened today, what it would do with just how many more people live here now. But that tornado at F5, the strongest on the Fujita scale, 114 deaths and 597 injured, the deadliest tornado in Texas history since 1900. Now, tornadoes are not uncommon in the Lone Star State, but the type that hit Waco is that strongest tornado, the F5, we've only had 6 of in the Lone Star State, and 3 of them have occurred here in Central Texas, including the Waco tornado and the Gerald tornado as well. So a reminder to always be on guard here in severe weather season. Now, the good news is I don't have severe weather today, but rain chances are coming up for Mother's Day weekend. I'll walk you through it coming up.
All righty. Thank you, Josh. Looking forward to that. Well, all eyes on the southern border this morning ahead of the end of Title 42. And Scripps News national correspondent Adi Guajardo joins us now live from a border point in El Paso with the latest. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Sharday. Look, as we near the end of Title 42, there's a lot of confusion about what it means for migrants who are over in Juarez, Mexico, just across from El Paso. And that confusion has led to unpredictability in migrant crossings. Over the last few days, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has announced that they've seen a surge in border crossings. Outside Sacred Heart Church, right behind me, there was about 1,200 migrants just a number of days ago. Now you only see a few dozen migrants sleeping behind me, many of them turning themselves over to processing centers. And now the Department of Homeland Security predicts between 11 and 13,000 migrants will be crossing each day as after Title 42 is lifted, and these cities are bracing.
Confusion and frustration.
Why are you crying? ¿Qué sientes?
Impotencia. Flare in Juarez, Mexico.
¿Cómo se llama?
No llore por eso, mami.
As migrants grow desperate at the border, attempting to navigate the recent changes in U.S. immigration policies.
Hundreds of migrants, including children, are crossing over from the Mexico side over to the U.S. side, right between that razor wire and the border wall. They told me they're waiting for U.S. Customs and Border Protection to open the door and let them into the U.S.
Mi plan ahorita es entregarme a migración y con el favor de Dios que me dejen entrar y bueno, si ya me expulsan de nuevo a México, tratar de aplicar en la página para ver.
The 26-year-old says he fears a return to Venezuela would mark a death sentence.
No tenemos dónde cargar los teléfonos.
Juan escaped Venezuela with his family. He says he's waiting for the number of appointments to increase this week on the CBP One app. The app allows migrants to seek entry into the U.S.
Es una aplicación inhumana, racista, xenófoba.
She says she's just frustrated. She's been trying to apply on the CBP One app since January.
Many people are fleeing their country, not for the American dream, but for political persecution in many cases.
Across the southwest border from California to Texas, thousands of migrants are waiting. As Title 42 nears expiration, the pandemic-era policy allows the U.S. to quickly expel migrants. With the policy gone, President Joe Biden announced more legal pathways to reach the U.S.
Making legal immigration more streamlined, illegal immigration shorter term and move.
He predicts chaos at the border as Title 42 comes to an end. The Department of Homeland Security projects 11 to 13,000 migrants will cross into the U.S. a day.
Yeah, and I think you've seen that, and we've been prepared. We didn't start yesterday. We're not starting today. We've been doing this for quite a while.
What message is President Biden sending migrants with these new announcements?
It's a mixed message. He's telling them not to come here. He would rather that people not line up and ask for permission at a bridge or port of entry.
Now, migrants I spoke with in Juarez, Mexico tell me some of them say they want to cross illegally. They want to have the proper documentation. Others say that they're just so frustrated they're willing to take the chance and cross illegally. Here in El Paso, the mayor says that they have shelters that will be available once they see that increase in migrants. And they also are working with the Red Cross in order to provide food for the migrants as they cross into the U.S. He's expecting them to stay in the city between 24 and 72 hours until they reach their destination. Back to you.
All righty, thank you, Adi, reporting live from the border this morning. We'll be right back after the break. All right, Josh, when is this rain going to let up? I feel like I'm gonna have to swim to work sometime this week.
No kidding. Thankfully, we didn't see widespread flooding yesterday. Some areas saw some water getting over the roads at times, but the rain's letting up today for the most part. We may still have a stray shower, but overall today, much drier. Don't let your guard down, though. It's changing here as we go through the weekend. There's a view right now. Clark Roofing, Cam, and Colleen. As far as today's concerned, it's rather quiet. We may have an isolated shower in the afternoon, lower 80s at 2 o'clock, mid 80s this afternoon. But keep in mind, it rained yesterday, so everything's going to feel humid. Those mid 80s are going to feel more like mid 90s as we get into the afternoon. We are watching a couple of light showers actually trying to work into parts of Mills and San Saba County. That's where storms will be today, way out to the west and up to the north where our next storm system will be brewing over Oklahoma today. That'll lead to the potential for severe weather up there. Now, we likely won't face that. I think things are quiet here today, but to our north, we'll be watching for that. The next thing we're tracking is what's sitting here off to the west of the Mexican coast. That is a bunch of moisture over the Pacific that's going to be streaming up over the mountains of northern Mexico and into the Lone Star State. Once that reaches us, our rain chances climb once again. So today, again, we stay fairly quiet. The south winds keep that humidity rolling in. Storms will be passing to our north. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have to watch and see where storms form in the afternoon. Could work in the evening and into the overnight hours. We could have some rain moving through. I think the severe threat rather low here, but to West Texas, there's going to be severe weather. And then with that system still sitting nearby, we're going to have passing waves of rain into Mother's Day even, with heavy rains possible at times. In fact, some of our western counties could pick up upwards of 4 inches of rain. 87 coming up Friday, 76 Saturday, 76 Sunday. We'll keep little spotty rain chances continuing all the way through next weekend.
All righty, thank you, Josh. Well, after 3 long years, the COVID-19 public health emergency in the U.S. is finally over. But how would that change things? Well, we've got a new warning from health officials next. It's now 6:45 and you're watching Good Morning Texas. New this morning, it's been more than 3 years, but the COVID-19 public health emergency is finally coming to an end today. The Biden administration letting the emergency declaration expire. It comes as weekly cases and hospitalizations are down drastically from previous years. However, health officials still warn that around 1,100 Americans are dying from the virus every week.
It's about 55,000 a year that would die if those numbers stayed the same, which is basically a really bad flu season. We could do better, but that's where we are right now.
The World Health Organization ended its global health emergency status for COVID-19 last week. Well, it's been 70 years since a devastating tornado swept through Waco. Up next, how the city is remembering the lives lost.
And I'm tracking the potential for showers that are going to impact your Mother's Day plans. Your full forecast is coming up.
Happening today, Waco will remember the devastating 1953 tornado 70 years later. And 25 News anchor Joey Horta is live downtown at one of the landmarks where the tornado touched down. Joey, what can you tell us?
Yeah, you know, Sharday, everyone's been here, right, to the Dr. Pepper Museum. It's on the list of things you do when you come to Waco for the first time. It's hard to imagine today, but these streets were filled with debris as those buildings were knocked down by that destructive tornado. Take a look at the museum here, the Dr. Pepper Museum behind me. Lighter shades of bricks up there on the top are where they built the walls back in. The roof was ripped off. That wall was knocked down by this tornado, and so many lives were lost. More than 100 people killed by this thing. And historians tell us again, you know, as we look back, as that tornado hit, it moved away just as quickly. It just came out of nowhere and boom, wiping out 1,000 buildings downtown. And many people will tell you, forever changed the progress of the city of Waco. It was quickly growing at that time and was expected to grow much larger than it is today, but that was all halted, of course. Many people trapped in the rubble. You could hear the screams as quickly as that tornado left for those survivors pleading for someone to pull them out of the debris. Today, there will be a ceremony honoring the victims who did not make it out alive. That's happening at 10 a.m. It's going on at the memorial, which is at the corner of 4th Street and Austin Avenue. But just remarkable to look back at those pictures, Sharday, and see that devastation. So many families that didn't make it out alive will be remembered today. We'll have more on that on 25 News Midday coming up here at 11. In the meantime, let's go to Josh for another check on the forecast.
Yeah, and the good news is our weather is quiet here this morning. The live radar network not picking up much. There are a couple of showers over some of our western counties. And I can't rule out a shower as we go through the day, but the chance of rain rather low compared to where we've been. Mid-80s later on this afternoon. You factor in all the humidity from the rain we saw yesterday, it's going to feel like the mid-90s out there. You're going to have to watch for some patchy fog this morning as well. Highs today going into the mid to upper 80s, maybe even lower 90s out towards San Saba. Now, I am watching some more storm chances for Mother's Day. We'll get to that full forecast coming up.
All righty, thank you, Josh. Well, this morning we're taking you to Dawson, where a star softball player is overcoming her disability. I spoke to Callie Marbury, who was born with a serious neurological condition that forces her to change the way she plays ball.
That'd be cute.
Just like every other junior in high school, Callie Marbury is gearing up for her senior year.
I believe that anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it.
Callie is considered a star athlete at Dawson High School, excelling at pretty much every sport.
She's definitely not a follower. She leads by example.
Although she hopes to take her softball career to the collegiate level, Callie's future isn't as clear as it may seem.
My biggest obstacle would just be my eyesight.
Since she was a kid, Callie suffered from chronic blurred vision.
Since I was 4 to about 8 or 9, I'd have to do blurring jobs or patching during school, during sports.
An ophthalmologist diagnosed Callie with non-reversible refractive amblyopia.
It's a neurological problem, which means that my brain believes that my eye is not a good eye.
Because amblyopia can limit a person's fine motor skills, doctors told Callie that playing sports would be difficult.
They suggested to me and my mom that maybe I should not try the sports route and maybe do some like musical.
With passion and a lot of patience, Callie has figured out a way to adapt.
I was a strong right-sided hitter, and now because of my eyes, I'm seeing faster pitcher and more movement in the ball. I'm having to switch to my left eye because when the ball comes in when I'm on my right side, I completely lose it.
Her actions and on the field, it speaks for itself.
As Callie continues to play, she's not letting her disability throw her off her game.
I'm not going to let this eyesight affect me. Like, this is my dream. It's been my dream since I was little.
Well, Callie is planning to try out for the softball team at Baylor once she graduates from Dawson High School, of course. She also plans to major in architectural design. Real fancy and a really inspiring story out there, Josh. Now, what's not inspiring is this weather.
Yeah, not inspiring at all. You know, we had the rain yesterday. Today, though, we'll get some sunshine out here, but thanks to the rain yesterday, that means the humidity will be high, so it'll feel quite warm as we go through the day today. Now, we should be quiet today, but watch what happens tomorrow. We're watching thunderstorms develop off to the northwest, some of those working in, and that's going to bring in a wetter pattern for Mother's Day weekend. We'll be in the mid-80s today, mid-70s coming up for the weekend, but the rain chances on the high side, we could see some flooding rains west of I-35, so we'll be watching that very closely.
All righty, thank you, Josh, and thank you at home for starting your day with us. Good Morning America is next.